afraid that there would be some horse trading in the jury room. And that's what really concerned us.
Am I insane, or did they not consent?
Did we miss something?
They consented to several of them. Not all of them, but several of them.
Yeah.
Are the two mutually exclusive? Just kidding.
I was a prosecutor. Corey was a prosecutor. And I never went after somebody like they did.
Yes.
And
Yes.
when they put on
We
the
would hope it's
Kandiri
not the norm.
brothers, knowing that they were lying,
Bad
that
faith.
is a problem. This isn't, as I said in my closing argument, I'm not going to, it's not a game. And you're playing with an 18-year-old kid's life. And they were willing to put those guys on. Detective Howard and Detective Antaramian had both interviewed them, and in their police reports said, we know you're lying. I can't ask that question when they're on the witness stand of the detective, because one witness can't comment on another. So they put them on. They knew they were lying, and that's garbage. And I'm thankful we're never going to have to litigate the issue regarding the drone video, but they kept saying we stipulated to it. We let it in. We agreed to let it in because we saw the quality we were given and the jury couldn't see anything. And then they're saying, well, his first lawyer had it because it was on Tucker Carlson. John Pierce never had that video. We've talked to Fox News. We've talked to Tucker Carlson's show. The video that was on Tucker Carlson's show started right when Rosenbaum threw the bag. It did not start with the part that they showed at the beginning. It's a huge difference. That's what they built their whole case on, with that garbage photo. And, maybe you don't expect everything in a trial, ever. And that program that they used and the expert from the crime lab specifically says on the company's blog, artificial intelligence enhancements are not to be used for forensic evidence.
Yep,
And
right.
they did it.
No.
And our research after it, it would have been the subject of a huge motion. We don't have to do it.
This is better than his opening.
Yep.
Oh, it is.
I think
I
he's
would have
more
liked to
Yeah,
see
warmed
that
up.
huge motion,
environment.
though. I would have liked to see that huge motion.
I don't know that it says, I personally don't like people carrying AR-15s around. There was so much anger and so much fear in Kenosha on August 25th that people did arm themselves. And, we knew from the beginning that if you read that statute correctly, I know everybody thought I was crazy. If you read the statute correctly, he was legal
Not
in
everybody.
having that firearm.
Some of
And
us
obviously,
saw it,
once
Mark.
the evidence came in, the judge threw the charge. They threw the curfew. And those were things that the state wanted to, kind of hang their hat on so they could argue he couldn't be there, he couldn't own the gun.
Look at that trigger discipline. What a moron Binger is.
Thank
Oh,
you.
everything about that picture is wrong.
The surviving victim, Jason Gross-Royce, said in an interview in recent days that watching Kyle testify.
You can see how he gets hired.
He
though.
just
I think
called him a
that's what-
surviving victim.
Oh.
I like Richard's passion. I really do.
Yeah, you could see him in the room getting clients, right? He's a little
oh,
less
yeah.
comfortable in the courtroom.
I
And
like
he's
him
pushing
better
that-
now than I did before.
Yep.
He's
this is
pushing
a
that
great
Wisconsin
interview.
local thing. The
If
Wisconsin local thing
Mr.
is what you want.
Groskwitz and some of the other people had let Kyle go to the police, there would only be one individual dead. They referred to him, and I talked about it, as an active shooter. Anybody can look up the definition of an active shooter from the FBI, law enforcement. He didn't meet it, but the way that those words are so charged, that's what they used. They wanted to paint him as that. I wish nobody died. I wish I never met Kyle Rittenhouse. And I don't mean that because he was a bad client. I just mean because then this wouldn't have happened.
Whether or not he feels he had to do it, is he remorseful? Does he feel bad about it?
Oh, obviously.
I think he does. We've talked about it. There's been so much talk about whether the tears were genuine.
Don't even bring it up.
All I can say is when we prepared Kyle and we worked on his testimony, there were things we couldn't talk about in my office because it got too emotional and he couldn't handle it. He's in, counseling for PTSD, so he doesn't sleep at night.
He could with a My Pillow promo code.
Remorse, I
Posey.
think, manifests itself some other ways. I don't think he can ever walk out here and say that because of the situation. But I know Kyle Rittenhouse, and I know what he feels.
Mark, along those lines, where does he go from here?
Well, I mean, I think you also saw from the breakdown at the verdict. I mean, it looked similar.
He
People gave him
has to
crap
get
for
on
not
with
having
his
tweeters.
life
and
the
he
best
couldn't-
he can.
He was
I
faking
think
being happy over the
eventually
verdict.
Some anonymity will come back to
Yeah.
it.
Looking forward to cell block D. Yeah.
I'll
I
be right.
don't think he'll continue to live in this area. I think it's too dangerous. He's had 24-hour security since this happened. We're thankful that the judge protected his address. Everybody in this case, and when I say that, I mean prosecution, defense. To me, it's scary how many death threats we've had. You know, I was answering my phone on the way back from court in Kenosha. My office isn't that far. After the third death threat, I quit answering the phone.
And Mark, what do you say to people who may look at these verdicts and still think that he had no business being in Kenosha that way? What do you say to people who are frustrated by this?
He had as much business being there as any of the demonstrators or the rioters.
Good.
That's all I could say. I mean, there's going to be people who will never agree with that statement, but you know, if we all would just mind our own business a little bit, I think we'd all be better off. And it's a hard lesson to learn, but
Couldn't that have been said about Kyle?
it could be. He was asked to be there. He wanted to help the community. And, you know, if that's the narrative that the state went with, he shouldn't have been there. He was asked to be there by Nick and Dominic. And the Kandiri brothers wanted security.
What
And,
Nick was thinking.
you know,
What was Nick thinking?
I'm not trying to blame anyone. I wish he'd never been separated from Ryan Balch, and we wouldn't be here.
Does he regret coming here to Kenosha?
I don't believe he does. I mean, you know, if he had to do it all over again, and you said same thing is going to happen, and life is going to be put in a living hell for a year, and you're going to not know if you're going to be a free man, he would say, I wouldn't go. But we can't undo time.
Mark, the president was just asked about the verdict. He said, I stand by what this verdict has to say. The jury system works.
And I'm not laughing at President Biden. What I'm laughing at is
You should be.
I am.
That's what we're doing.
You should be.
a friend of mine
Yeah.
who's a lawyer said, he goes, and him and I had done a big case together 7-8 years ago. And he said, do you think this Rittenhouse is going to be bigger than that case? And I said, you know, I do. And he said, why do you say that? And I said, I've never had a case, and I don't think I ever will, where within 2 days or 3 days of one another, you know, the president and the presidential candidate comment on it. And both of them had such different beliefs. President Biden said some things that I think are so incorrect and untrue. He's not a white supremacist. I'm glad that he at least respects the jury verdict. And if the government had any information regarding his cell phone or anything, that he'd been to any of those websites or been online doing that kind of stuff, it would have been introduced in evidence. It wasn't. We were the individuals who released his cell phone, which couldn't be cracked by the FBI because we had nothing to hide.
For those of us that got here a little bit late, can you just kind of reiterate
How
a
is
little
Richards just killing this interview? I mean,
No,
he's doing
I'm
great.
not- I'm
Because
doing
it-
reruns.
I-
genuinely
I swear
passionate.
it's a different environment.
What's
It's
that?
a different
Yeah.
environment.
I'm a criminal defense
I'm
attorney.
wondering if he
I
just
don't
does
do
better in dialogue
civil
rather
stuff.
than soliloquy.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
Yes.
Sure.
Yep.
No procedure. No need to object.
Well, he doesn't even. I mean, this
Every
doesn't
case is
exactly. He doesn't
different,
have the
and every
stiffness of even
case
his closing.
has
Yeah.
surprises. You know,
This-
hey,
This is how you get clients, by the way. You're an
Yeah.
asset
I
to
learned
the
I
in
could
the
wait
room.
24
right now.
hours for a verdict.
So he clearly gets
Don't
clients.
hire this man. Don't be fooled.
I suspect there will be a fight over that.
He's convincing in the room. I can
You
tell
know,
you that right
John
now.
Pierce is the person who posted the bond. All of that money was
He cares
raised
about his
on
client,
behalf of
that's coming
Kyle.
through. That's
This
why
is
he's
this
killing
is
it.
interesting.
Linwood and Fight Back say that they're entitled to it. There was,
No.
and when I'm using round numbers, but there was $500,000, I think, that came directly from Wendy Rittenhouse from money she had raised. So there's going to be a fight over that, and I'm just thankful that there will be a fight over that, because if he had lost, it wouldn't have mattered. He wants to be a nurse.
I'll be following along that fight, by the way.
Yeah, absolutely.
I
need
don't
to
know.
be
$1
more
million
patient.
is a lot of canteen money.
The fact that Linwood thinks they have a claim to it, though, it's like, wow.
Insane. It's insane.
Getting rid of the first
Yeah.
two lawyers.
The pivotal
And,
moment was getting rid of
You
the
know,
first two
that might be
lawyers.
a
Ooh.
smart alecky comment, but I mean that.
I mean, he's got to
Yeah.
have
an
on.
ego.
It's so
I
oblivious.
got my best friend, Corey, to join, who I trust.
Sorry.
And
We
to be
hang
able
out
to work
at
with
the
somebody who
beach.
you don't have to check their work. You don't worry
Without
about what they're
shirts.
going to be doing. You give them a project
Yeah,
and it's
a
done
Binger-esque
as
photo.
good or better as you do yourself.
Yeah.
It's priceless.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of commentary on the prosecutor's performance in this case. What would you say being up there with him every day?
You must have got here a little bit late. I've known Tom Binger for a long time.
He's
I
in
knew him
his
when he was a
zone right
civil
now.
lawyer. I'm disappointed with some of the things he did, and I've said why.
Such as what?
I'm not mad. I'm just
Putting on the
disappointed.
Canary brothers when you know they're lying.
There you go.
Changing your prosecution, going with provocation after you say that my client chased him down and shot him in the back. Calling him an active shooter when he's not. You know, justice is done when the truth is reached, and I don't know that it's set up to do that, but a prosecutor is supposed to seek the truth.
Ooh.
It's not about winning, and this
Amen.
case
Fair point.
came about
Very fair
and
point.
that's probably why it got so personal.
How about
I don't know who this Mark
Yep.
Richards is.
You know,
exactly.
I've
The
never
real Mark Richards is tied up in
seen
the back room.
so much made
Yeah,
of
that's
so
what
little.
Binger is right now.
And that's not to pick on you guys or anything like that, but I've tried cases as a prosecutor 100 years ago in front of Judge Schrader. I've tried cases
I
as
believe
a
Judge
defense
Schrader
lawyer,
was there 100 years
and
ago.
him and I butted heads
do
as a
too.
defense lawyer. Judge Schrader gives you a fair trial as a defendant. You don't want him to sentence your client. Okay, but in
Flat
this
out called him out on
case,
it.
we were looking for a fair trial.
Was the
And if we
question why
lost,
didn't
we
it
knew what was gonna
do a
happen.
bench trial?
So it wouldn't have mattered whether it was that judge or some other judge. He's getting life in prison. So I'd rather have a fair trial. I thought he gave us a fair trial. You know, everybody got all crazy about the tumbler. Who cares? That has nothing to do with this. I mean, I've seen the
I like
tumbler
the
used
tumbler.
before. I've seen clerks pull things out and suspicious things happen. Kyle pulled it out, and I'll be real honest. We had every juror scored on a sheet, and we were devastated when those 3 of the 6 jurors were separated from the panel because we thought they were 3 of our strongest jurors, and Kyle pulled their names. So I think it's a good system. You know, I've got a trial in front of him, you know, a big case, and maybe in that one I'll think he's unfair, but he's a fair judge.
He's got to worry about his future.
About rethinking the possibility of live coverage to this extent. Given what you guys have gone through, you know, you mentioned that you guys went through a lot. There were threats made to you. What do you think that should be going forward, setting the precedent about?
I don't know about that. You know, I think that I've never done a case that was televised gavel to gavel. I've had cases that have gotten media coverage. I was kind of,
Come on,
I
how
knew
much
this
of the
case
stream
was
did you
big.
watch?
I had no idea it was going to be this big. I mean,
None of
I've
us
gotten
did, buddy.
calls from people I haven't seen in 25 years. It's just bizarre. And I'll never be able to figure out exactly what it is that caused the interest that it did. I don't think it made the attorneys act different. I don't think it made the judge act different. I suspect when everything cools down, if there was another big case in front of Judge Schrader, he'd let the cameras in.
Mark, will Kyle say anything to the crowd his batteries out there now, or you on his behalf?
You know,
About, we don't know that there'll be trouble, but, you know, there's people gathering by the time we left. There were more and more people.
Oh, are you going to blame Kyle for not tamping down the protesters?
I don't. The people who are going to end up causing trouble, they don't want to hear from Kyle Rittenhouse. That's,
Obviously.
you know,
Think.
what, remain calm? You know, I don't, you know, I don't think it's that kind of case. I mean, you know, when you want to talk about implications and precedent and things like that, is it ever going to happen again? You know, is there ever going to be just a total unrest in Kenosha or some other city, and that's going to happen?
Well, yeah, that will happen,
know,
but we ever have a perfect
I
self-defense
just don't
sentence
see
again.
that. It was a case about self-defense, the right to protect oneself from, you know, Mr. Rosenbaum. Don't want to speak ill of the dead, but he wasn't a nice person, and everybody knows why. And a lot of that didn't come in front of the jury. So I don't know that there's any broader implications. I don't want to make it bigger than it is.
A couple politicians in Wisconsin used the word vigilante and referred to your client since the verdict came down. How do you react to that?
Maybe they should have watched the trial.
Ooh,
Amen.
Wow.
That's true, though. I mean, that's a legit answer.
Very true.
Yep.
And they could watch it on Ricada Law on YouTube.
You know,
Please mention us
it's one
during
of
the
those
prep
things
I don't
that
think he's giving you a shout out
anything
today.
that's said at this time,
I think Nick might die on
It's kinda
stream if he
meaningless.
hears that in the Wisconsin
we have to
accent.
take it in, reflect on it, and
Do you think he's going to thank
You know,
Darth Crypto?
what's he thanking me for? And I don't mean that it's insincere, but it takes a while to process what happened today. I haven't processed it.
I think the other thing you see with Richards here is a
I don't think
tremendous
that-
amount of stress brought
I
off
can't
of him.
answer that question. If I had to
Yeah.
guess, and it would be a guess, I don't think they'll stay in Wisconsin. I got a
He seemed
trial in a
very
week.
relaxed.
I'm going to
Good.
take a couple of days off.
Good
and
answer.
go to
Got a
bed.
trial
His
in a
ass
week.
was on the line.